Wow! Mr. Fleming, come on. Oh, hello there. Sorry, I didn't realize you guys were here already. Yeah, I'm just reliving my arcade fantasies here, playing PacMan. And what we're going to do in Scratch this week is create PacMan. Oh, I died again. Mr. Fleming. Okay, anyways. Let's take a look at the PDF first, and then take a look at the game here. So let me just get rid of that. There, okay. So, yeah, and you can find, I just searched, PacMan online, and you can play it and see how it really is. Let's check out the PDF first, because that will give us an overview of what we're trying to do here. So PacMan, right, like I said, this is going to not be a perfect recreation of it, and part of the challenge will be for you to, if you want, make it a bit more like the real PacMan. We're going to go through about 5 different steps here, and I'll sort of broadly go over them with you. I won't, sort of hold your hand and go step by step this time, but we'll create a backdrop. We will create a PacMan. We will script or code our PacMan. We'll pick up the dots, create the dots and pick up the dots. And we will also create and program the ghosts here. So that's quite a lot to do. I recommend that, don't watch the video in a way, okay, and challenge yourself to do this. You should be able to follow this and say, oh, okay, I can see how to make these. I know how to make, costumes. I know how to sort of modify it and basically do the code. You could probably do this code without looking at it, hopefully. Now, problem solve, how would you pick up the dot? Problem solve, how maybe you get those ghosts to work around or move around. So, yeah, I'll go through those. Now that will be the basic game, and of course there's these additional things, how to get points, and I'll show you that. Make it so that you have 3 lives. I won't show you that, but I'll give you some ideas. Make it so that you can start a new level when you started collecting the dots, okay? So this game, you might have different backdrops that you want to use, and that's perfectly fine. And create a title and or game over screen. So all those different things that you can modify here. So let's go take a look at PacMan. So PacMan in itself, this is what I've created here. So let's just go back and deal with the stages or the backdrops first. Pretty straightforward, and I'll just sort of give you an idea here. The very back round is just a square or a rectangle that is colored in black. Okay, it's got a fill of black in there. And then what I simply did was I created one rectangle, okay, that was this blue color, and you can change the color. Blue isn't, you don't have to do blue and black, but I just sort of made it one width, okay, sort of one height, I guess, in this sense, and then I just duplicated it and simply move them around. So you can either go copy and paste if you want, or Control C, Control V, copy and paste, same thing as in most programs, and then you can move it around. Rotating, one little hint there is that when you rotate, it will be a little bit difficult to get exactly the right rotation. So the little trick is if you hold down the Shift key, it locks it into 45 degrees increments. So it'll be sort of horizontal, 45 degrees, vertical, okay? And the second little point there to make that's important is try to keep the widths between these rows and these, I guess, the columns as well, relatively the same. If they're really different, the size of your PacMan is going to cause some problems. Okay, so that's the backdrop, right? Just one backdrop. If you want to create more than one levels, go ahead, make some more levels, right? Okay. Notice one thing here. I've put some gaps here. So in the real PacMan, you can move from one side to the other. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but you can figure that out. Okay, that's going to be some of those extra things that you can do. Now that we've got that done, let's take a look at one of our sprites. It would be a good idea for me to rename these, okay? I've been lazy here and not name them, but Sprite 2, sorry, is PacMan, okay? And so what I want to do here, and I'll just sort of go through, I've got 2 costumes. So just a circle, remember, and I'll just bring this back to your memory here, that the center of the circle should be lined up here. Okay, so there's the origin, is that little circle there, and then I've got the circle on top of that origin. Okay, so that way it's sort of symmetrical. So make sure you do that, or else it kind of moves weird. This guy here, so I think that's pretty straightforward. Circle, just a another circle, and then just a straight line. Okay, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to do Control Z, so I go back a step, so it's back to that original yellow. And then the other thing, so the second costume is just the mouth opening. So we're going to change costumes here, get it to open and close. Now don't worry, this doesn't look all that great right here, but with the black background, there should be no problem as long as you don't have any of that yellow showing. What I did was I simply used this tool here, the reshape tool, and pulled it out. Okay, I could have done a better job, but let me just pull that out a little bit there. It's fine, like as long as it's looking good there, you're okay. Okay, so that is the PacMan and the background. Now, we'll just sort of hide these ghosts for the moment. So I'm just going to hide them off here because we'll come back to them in a minute. And there, I've got some dots. Okay, they've been eaten, so I'll just hide them anyway. They're already hidden, I think. Okay, so let's go look at the programming here. And so what I'm going to do is basically go back to my code, okay, and click on my sprite. Now, this is basically the code that we saw in the previous version, sort of thing, right? We saw that we had some movement, so it's very much like Flappy Bird or the other games we looked at. What I did here is when we clicked at the start, okay, when you click the flag, it set it to a position, and that position is just up here. You can change that, okay? But remember, that's the little trick where I move it, and then I can just grab that position, go to, and wherever my character is, it's that position there. And then forever, I've just got it going into this next costume, and I found about 0.2 seconds work pretty well. So if I do that, now you can see he's kind of bouncing up and down at the moment. That's not a big problem, but you can see his mouth opening and closing there. Okay, this one here, now I've added a show here, and that's because I want to make sure PacMan is showing. If he gets eaten by a ghost, which I'll show you down here, he's going to disappear. Okay, so that's why I need to make sure he's showing there. Forever, he's always going to be moving. Okay, because that's really what PacMan does. You can't really stop PacMan per se. You can kind of, but yeah, I mean, you could change this up, but I'm just going to keep him moving, my little version here. And if he touches the blue, so this blue here, and remember that you can just use the eyedropper tool and you'll be able to do that. Then you should be able to turn 180 degrees, okay? And then I set that rotation style to left and right there. And that's just to ensure that he is going to bounce back and look decent. He's not going to turn upside down. These guys I'll come back to later. That's just where we've got him touching each of those sprites. And those sprites are the ghosts, okay? And then I simply have the directions. Again, nothing different than what we saw earlier in one of our challenges. Up arrow, point going up, just changing the direction that they're moving. Now to just show this working here, okay, so if I've got in here, you can see that he's moving up and down. Oops, let me just stop him here. Start again. So there it is, and then I should be able to get it. Now if he's bouncing around a little bit, I might have to just play around a bit with the sizes. It might be just too narrow at the top. One other thing to keep in mind, right, is if your PacMan's too big or too small, you can always set the size here. Okay, so hopefully you can get that working there. I think it's pretty straightforward. Next thing that we had to do was the dots. Now the dots are simply a sprite, okay, and I've got two of them here because I've duplicated it. So first I would create my one sprite. Costume, pretty straightforward, just a circle. Again, it's good to center it just so that it's nothing weird is sort of going on with it. Okay, now in terms of the code, well, a couple things. One is we want it to disappear, right? So when PacMan touches it, we're going to get it to disappear. When the game starts again, we want to make sure that that's back. So what I've got again is that when the flag is clicked, it's going to show, okay? And then forever, it's sensing it forever. If it's touching, so this is an if block, touching sprite 2, so sprite 2 is our PacMan, then what it's going to do, well, the first thing is it's going to hide, okay? So don't worry about this change points here for a second, but what it's going to do is hide. So if I simply run this, okay, you can see it hides, all right? Now this next little bit here is one of those bonus things, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint here. Points is a variable, and you can think of as a variable as sort of like a bucket or a container that can hold things, and you can give it any name you want. So what I did here is I came into variables, I did make variable. I created my own variable here, and it gave me the option, I called it points. Now that little check mark, I can turn it on or off. And this little thing is movable around the screen here, okay? So wherever I want it, I'll just put in the corner, there's my points. So what did I do then? Well, I've got some options here. I can change my points by 1. If I want to decrease it, I could go -1, right? So this is going to increase it by 1, so change my points, and I had that drop down to choose however many points I want. So if I went up to 5, if I wanted to be really generous, reset this, then you can see here it's getting 5 points each time. Now he only got 6 because of that second one. It's only got 1 point on it. So once you get one of these working the way you want, what then I would recommend you do, so let's just stop this. What I would recommend you do is then right click on it and duplicate it. And then you can move it around, okay? So if I put one here, and now I do it, okay, so I move this guy over, so he gets 5, and then this one, if I move down, if I get it in the right spot, there, now I'm up to 10 points, okay? So that is a way to get your points to work, okay? And also to get these to disappear. And like I said, when I click this, because I put the show in, they show up again. All right. The last thing is really to get the ghost working, okay? Now the ghost, first of all, how did I design the ghost? Well, it's not too bad. What I did here, this is really a circle, okay? And then I grabbed my favorite little reshape tool, and I simply, at the bottom of that circle, dragged a few of these down so that they became, I think you can see it, there you are. So these are where I sort of clicked to create this up and down look. It's not perfect, it's good enough, okay? Now, I added a little bit of an interest here. I put a bit of animation on them because in the real PacMan game, the eyes move back and forth. It's pretty subtle, but the only difference, so remember I can right click and duplicate. I duplicated it, and then I simply changed where the eye was, okay? The eye position, the pupil position, I guess, to get it going back and forth, okay? What I did as well with these is that I just simply duplicated them. So when I duplicated this one, I got a different color. Now these are all hidden here, so that's why we can't see any of them. So now I've got 2 yellow ones. All I did was I took that, I went back to the costumes, and then I clicked on that, and then I just changed my color. So what I just made sure is I did them the same for each of them. So I did a blue one sort of like that, and then if I wanted a purple one, so let's just say that's good. So that's 65. Just be careful that this is also 65. Okay. So this guy, I'm just going to move over to 65. Otherwise, you'll have him changing colors as they go. Okay. It might be a neat effect, but that's not what I was looking for there. So there's my other ghost. Okay. Now I'm not going to put him in my game. Okay. So I'm just going to take him off. That's interesting. I guess I have to have him there. I'm just going to delete him because I don't want another one there. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the code here. So I'll turn this first ghost on, and if we look at the code, what you'll see is when it's clicked, he's got a starting position. Okay, 200 minus 5. I can't quite remember where that is. I think it's basically up here. He's going to always be moving one step. He's going to be pointing towards the sprite 2, which is PacMan. So he's always going to be going that way. Now, if you did that, he would actually move through the walls completely, just right through them. I did a little bit of difference here. If he touches that blue wall, he's going to turn 90 degrees and then make sure you set that rotation style as well. So let's just see how he works. So you can see him, he's coming. So he started from over here. Now you see how he doesn't bounce against that. Then he comes through. Now he does go through the wall a little bit, but generally he does a pretty good job there. So if I try to get away from him, okay, you can see he's trying to go down, but he's not getting through because he's bouncing away, and then he comes through. Now you might be able to fix this up even better, but he's acting like a pretty cool ghost, right? He's following you and, you know, acting almost like a real Pac-Man would. Now the speed, so he can cut through the wall there a little bit. The speed might be too slow, okay, so you might have to play with that. Simply change the move steps, right? It's something for you to fine tune to make your game even better. Okay, let's hide him for the moment and check out my other sprite. Now this guy is pretty simple, okay? Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention on this guy, and I did it on this one, is to make sure that I've got the costume. Let me see if I can just copy that. Control C. There we go. Now, if we sort of zoom in a little bit on that, if you watch it carefully, okay, now his eyes are shifting back and forth. Good. And you can see this one down here, the blue one, he's just got his eyes shifting left and right, okay? So on this one, right, his eyes are shifting left and right, just like we did before. His movement is basically just left and right. So it's pretty straightforward. What I've got here is when clicked, he's got a starting position, which I think was right here, okay? So I'd always want to have a starting position because for two reasons. One is I don't want to begin my game and have them all in weird spots or right where Pac-Man starts, because then he'll die right away. So I always want a starting position there. The second thing, right, that I want to make sure is that that, you know, forever, right, he's moving, okay? And then if he touches, he's simply going to move the other direction, okay? And I've got that set style rotation so he doesn't turn upside down again. So he's simply a move back and forth, okay? So that's how he works. The last one, so let's just turn off these guys to keep ourselves visible. The last one is like a grid, okay? And I can make him move to a certain position, okay, and over time. So this one is just sort of a glide. And so if I just actually get rid of all these for the moment, just to sort of show you what the idea here is. So this is the start, okay? He is going to, and I just did that right to give it a little half-second pause. We're going to get him to move to a different spot. So under the motion ones, what I can do is, okay, so let's start this game. Okay, so at the start, he's here, okay? Let's say we want him to be over here, okay? So then what I can do is it will go to, or sorry, glide to this position in, now 1 second is going to be pretty fast. That means in 1 second he gets all the way over there. I can change that. Now, again, this is a little bit of a guess here on my part. Okay, 5 seconds. You're going to have to experiment and see. Then probably what I'd want to do is move him up a little bit. Okay, so again, I could get that glide to, and notice this time I didn't really change too much on the X, but he moved up. And again, maybe 1 second will be fine, okay? And then let's just say he's going to move over here, okay? Now if that took 5 seconds, maybe 4 seconds, because it's not quite as far, so glide to, let's just set that to 4 seconds. All right, so let's just take a look here. So when I press play, he's there, that little bit of a pause, which was fine. He moves, then he moves up, then he moves across. And so you could create like a little pattern, right? Where is he going next? Now he jumped back down because once that finished, the next step was here, okay? So obviously I need to finish that up. I won't go through that whole process with you, but you can do that, okay? So then you've got 3 different ghosts. You could create a fourth ghost if you want and do something different with him, okay? So whatever you're feeling to make your game fun to play, you can do that. Obviously, you want to make it so that you could possibly win the game, but yeah, do what you want there. Now, just to go back with what we had to finish your game, basically what I just did there, went through everything. the points are right there. Now you would be a good idea to reset the points when the game starts, and I believe I did that. Sorry, just let me find that here. I believe I took that off, right? So on the PacMan, he's controlling the points. Next costume when clicked. I think I got rid of that. Let's just see here. Yeah, I probably got rid of that. So what I would just do is in my variables, set the variable to points variable to 0. So that way, and I think I might have changed some numbers here too, right? Okay, so I've got 5 points, 6 points, and I do that, then start again, the points are back to 0, okay? One last thing, sorry, I forgot to mention too, is the touching, right? So if you're touching sprite 4, then hide, that will basically end the game, okay? So if you touch those sprites, it will hide PacMan. So that should be working. Let's just see. Now, of course, I'm going to miss him here, maybe. Catch up? No. Oh, he's going too fast. He's going to end up in that bottom corner. Okay, let's just go. Let's meet him this way. There. And the game is kind of over. Okay, but you could do it a better job than me there. So like I was mentioning, there are those different options. So make it so that you get points. We talked about that. Make it so that you have 3 lives. I'm not going to go into that. That's an option for you before the game resets. Okay, make sure that you have a start screen. Okay, finish collecting the dots on the first level. You could do a different level if you want. You could create a title or a game over screen. And that one last thing that I mentioned too was that you can have that if they touch over here, right, that they move to the other side so that they get sort of transported from one edge to the other. All right, so good luck with that. Try to get a PacMan game that kind of works. It doesn't have to be identical to the original. You can take that theme and make it your own. All right, good luck.